What's going on, everybody? It's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and you may know that I absolutely despise the Joy-Cons for the Nintendo Switch. There's multiple reasons why I actually despise them, but I'm not going to get into the whole myriad of problems with them in my opinion. But I will say one major criticism that myself and many other people have is the lack of a D-pad on the left Joy-Con. Now, when you look at all the other consoles, you've got your D-pad on your left, your buttons on your right, and unfortunately that's not really the case with the Joy-Cons on the Switch, or as I like to call them, the Wiimote 2.0. But hey, at least the Wiimote had a D-pad. So why this is a major criticism for the Joy-Cons is that if you're playing in handheld mode with the Joy-Cons attached to the console, or you're playing in portable mode and you actually just take the Joy-Cons out, maybe put them in the grip, or even if you're playing in TV mode and you're using the Joy-Cons for some absolute god-awful unforeseen reason, you're left with the 4 separate individual button layout instead of a D-pad, and that is completely unacceptable for the majority of games. Now, some games, like I believe it's Bayonetta, that you only use what would be the D-pad for your items, something like that is okay for buttons, because that's one whole separate thing. But a big criticism is, let's look at Ultra Street Fighter 2 and the upcoming Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. You need a D-pad for this. There's basically only 3 different options for you to use, and one of them is very expensive, because you shouldn't be playing old games like this with a stick. You should be playing them with a proper functional D-pad. So you're limited to, say, buying something along the lines of the Nintendo Switch or Wii U Pokken Tournament controller, which actually has a pretty good D-pad and is pretty cheap. Or you can go to Big Baller Shot Caller route like I did, and you can get a nice big Hori Real Arcade Pro 5 arcade stick. Or you can now go with the third option, something that's coming nice and soon and is going to interest a lot of you people out there, especially if you're looking at playing something like Ultra Street Fighter 2 or the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection. So top quality peripheral manufacturer, a company I personally love, Hori, are releasing a separate left Joy-Con, and this left Joy-Con has a D-pad instead of the 4 individual buttons. Now, this is a very specialized piece of equipment in both positive and negative ways. So as a positive, it replaces the terrible individual button layout that's basically unusable for many of its actual features and uses, and depending on the game, of course. It's also relatively cheap, coming in at 2,480 yen, which is approximately €20, but I'm sure once you factor in shipping and all, because currently it's only scheduled for a Japanese release. That of course could change, but buying it online and getting it shipped and all, you might look at a little bit of an extra markup. But that's the official price on it anyway. Now, as this is relatively cheap, considering that an actual Nintendo branded Joy-Con is about twice that price, if not a little bit more, you have to wonder that how did they manage to do that? Well, because this is a very specialized piece of equipment and only used for kind of we'll call it a niche audience and highly specialized market, it really just focuses on literally being a very basic control Joy-Con with a D-pad instead of the buttons. So what does that mean? What did they have to actually cut out in order to get that working and to get it to the price point it is? Well, there's basically no additional extra features. There's no HD rumble, there's no gyro sensors, there's no accelerometers, or I can never pronounce that word, accelerometer, whatever it is. There's none of that extra fancy stuff. On top of that, it is not a wireless Bluetooth rechargeable controller. This controller can only be used in handheld mode. There's no wireless capabilities with this controller at all. No Bluetooth, no battery, so it literally only works in handheld mode. Which brings up one other problem. Personally, I've used the Nintendo Switch maybe 2 or 3 times in handheld mode, and it is absolutely god-awful. Between being forced to use the Joy-Cons, and many of the games are just completely unplayable on a performance aspect as well as a visual aspect. Because I have good eyesight, and a lot of the stuff just comes out too small. Mario is basically completely unplayable in handheld mode. So the fact that this actually limits you to handheld mode is another story, which of course if you're playing online, that's going to limit you to wireless internet, which is another little bit of an issue. But anyway, let's dial it back and let's look at the positive, the real positive for this. If you were looking for something to play in handheld mode with a D-pad, you're now sorted. A quality D-pad is completely 100% required for certain games, especially fighting games like Ultra Street Fighter 2 and the upcoming Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. This is the market that this product is focused on, and it's probably going to sell decently well. My only real concern is the lack of wireless play and the fact that you are literally completely tethered to handheld mode. So let me know in the comment section below what you think of this idea. Do you think they should have increased the price a little bit to maybe get a couple of extra features, maybe wireless rechargeable batteries, or whatever it is? Let me know if you're going to pick one up. I'm personally not going to pick one up. I have basically no use for it. And even if I was to get the 30th anniversary collection on the Switch, I've got the big hoary Real Arcade Pro 5 to do me. But let me know if you're going to get one. And vitally, let me know what kind of games you would get this for. Would you get them for fighting games like Street Fighter? Or would you get them for other types of games? Like some of the retro indies, the arcade ports, or just other games in general? What would you use something like this for? Let me know all the good stuff in the comment section below. Hit the appropriate button to let me know how I did on the video. Maybe even hit the subscribe button, and I will see you in the rest of the videos in my channel.